Good morning, everybody. MikesMMAPicks here. Back again with a Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show for UFC 287, where we have Israel Adesanya taking on Alex Pereira for the fourth time, second time in mixed martial arts. Should be a fantastic card down in Miami, Florida. Enjoy your time if you're headed to the fights. I'm a big fan of South Florida, especially Key Largo, Isla Mirada, Marathon, Key West, that area. Ooh, you are going to have the time of your life and enjoy every second of it. Let's get into these fights where we have 13 matchups. 10 of 13 matchups are currently favored to end inside the distance. Fantastic slate ahead of us, but let's get one of the worst fights out of the way early. Sam Hughes taking on Jacqueline Amorim. Amorim coming in as a minus 265 betting favorite. You watch back the tape, and this young lady, she is going to hunt for a submission early and often. And Sam Hughes better be ready for it. I know she trains out of Fortis MMA, Sam Hughes, and she's a fighter who, man, she's been beaten to a pulp against legitimate opponents, and she's had a bit of a cakewalk here in the UFC recently against Pereira and others. I'm not a huge fan of Sam Hughes. I know she's a tough lady, but you watch the way that she was smiling at the weigh-ins. I do have concerns. Amorim, she looked like she was having a tough cut there. She did make the weight, but I'll be picking Amorim to win and to win this fight inside the distance. I have no action on this bet. I would rather the UFC take the time to fill these first few fights with, how about putting fannies in the seats for a Matt Frevola matchup, somebody who's going to get the blood flowing early. But the pick's going to be Amorim and to win so inside the distance. Next up, where we have a fight that also should end inside the distance here, we've got Steve Garcia taking on Sherman Nuerdanbieke. Nuerdanbieke minus 190 at the betting window. This is a fighter who is coming off of the fixed bout against Derek Minner. By the way, that investigation still underway. We have yet to have any resolution there. I'd be interested to see what the fallout is. By the way, good morning. Great to be here today. Got to get the coffee in. So, second fight of the night, Steve Garcia, who is a kill or be killed fighter, the epitome of kill or be killed. He's going to come out there, brutalize Chase Hooper last time out. And Charlin is a fighter who, look how many fights this guy has on his record. It's incredible how, I know regional scene on the other side of the hemisphere doesn't really bode that well for most people, but he's come on over here. He's performed fairly well. He's a pretty tough dude. He's going to try to close distance and potentially take this fight to the mat. Garcia could land a strike here to end this fight early. He's going to come out guns blazing, Garcia. I don't see this fight going the distance. Kill or be killed here. I'm going to be picking the favorite, but I would rather play fight doesn't go the distance. Nuerdanbieke he's a crafty veteran. It's incredible. Look at how old this kid is too. 28 years old with 49 professional fights. That doesn't happen very often. Garcia, though, he is dangerous. I'll say that. He will go for the kill. And one of the things about Steve Garcia, he's a fighter who's going to take risks. I like seeing that. You know, fighters who go for it, fighters who want to win, fighters who are not complacent and just sitting back trying to point fight and get out of there. So give me Nuerdanbieke. Next up, where we have Trey Ogden taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. By the way, if you have the chance, take a listen to James Lynch's breakdown where he talked to Trey Ogden about the last time he tried to make weight and all of the issues he had at an Airbnb and I believe in LA Fitness and another establishment. Ended up Manny Torres was the one who was in the hospital with complications due to their weigh-in fallout. But Trey Ogden ended up making weight. Now, this time around, catch weight bout against Ignacio Bahamondes, who Bahamondes is going to be the much better of the strikers here. He's a flashy kickboxer who can change levels when he has to, but Ogden's going to be the fighters looking to take this fight to the mat. Ogden is, he said that he's going to try and drag Bahamondes to the mat and then land elbows in his face. That may be a path to victory for him here, but he's going to have to break through and close distance on Bahamondes, which is a difficult thing to do in a larger octagon. Ignacio Bahamondes, man, that head kick on Roosevelt Roberts. Oh man, that one still resonates strong here. Bahamondes is a dangerous fighter, tough as nails. He is a fighter who doesn't give up on himself. I've seen him put in some pretty bad situations on the mat, and I believe Bahamondes is the rightful favorite here. I'll be picking him to win, and I think he gets this done inside the distance. I'm concerned Ogden lost a striking matchup to Jordan Levitt. Okay, let that sink in for a few seconds. That is a real concern here, and I like Jordan Levitt's the persona that he carries around, and he's a very charismatic dude. Interesting guy though. But let's get back to the fight right now. Bahamondes, I believe he gets this done inside the distance. Next up, we have Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez. By the way, I see the comments starting to fill up here. Let's see what we got. Coffee in hand. Yes, sir. We are going to make it a great day. 5:45 a.m. on the West Coast, brah. Yes, it's a pleasure to see you tuning in. I'm grateful you are here. Thank you. Thank you. Evan, good morning, sir. Good morning. Excellent. Let's see. We'll see. Sometimes the tweets do end up on the broadcast. I've been fortunate that that's happened. And hopefully they are legitimate quotes that end up adding to the conversation in a positive manner. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got here. All right. Welcome back. The coffee has been brewing. Good morning, Liam. Thank you for your stick-to-itiveness and consistency when it comes to putting out content on a regular basis. It's something that I've strived to do for many years, and I've been at this for a very long time. But keeping me honest, keeping me fresh, and adding to the conversation is key here. And let's get back to the fights at hand. So let's get back to Lupita Godinez, who has, that fight against Angela Hill really was a tough pill to swallow. She came in there on short notice. She said that I heard in a recent interview that against Carnelossi, she had some sort of hip issue that she didn't disclose, and that had been really bothering her headed into the Angela Hill fight that she took on short notice, and ended up, that was one of the reasons she wasn't able to get the fight to the mat, etc. Now, Calvillo hasn't made strawweight since 2018 or 19, and she ended up making weight yesterday, and she looked like a completely different person on the scale. Let's be honest here. Facial structure was changed, and you got to wonder what has changed from the fighting perspective, because she has been finished in 2 of her last 4 bouts. She's a fighter who has a grappling heavy strength, but she has difficulty getting fights to the mat in regards to closing distance. I think it was Caitlin Chukagan. I had a bet on Cynthia Calvillo there. That did not bode well. She wasn't able to close distance there. And Godinez is a fighter who's willing to take risks. She can use her wrestling, but she ends up making really massive bonehead mistakes. The Jessica Penne fight was a fight, oh my gosh. She was putting herself in horrific positions. She was trying to slam opponents, and then you have to think about the consequences of what happens after those slams. Look back to Michael Chandler against Dustin Poirier. Similar situation where the physicality helps her rise, but then bonehead decisions after that put her in tough spots. So I'm not going out of my way to play Godinez here, although she may be the rightful favorite. She is spry. She She has volume, she has cardio, and she has confidence. And you watch Calvillo, I wonder where that confidence is at. So I'll be picking Lupita Godinez, but I've seen Calvillo perform very well on the mat in the past. And if she is able to get this fight to the mat and ends up on top at any point, she could lock up a submission. That would not surprise me at all. Although Calvillo looks like she's at the end of her career and she's in her mid-30s. This is women's mixed martial arts where there is an extreme amount of volatility, and we must take that into consideration. By the way, I've been under the weather for the past week, but I have been toughing it out here, and I really wanted to get this video out this morning. So looking forward to completing this breakdown, and we're ready to push through. So Carl Williams next up, taking on Chase Sherman. This is a heavyweight matchup. Both of these fighters came in weighed very similarly. It's 239-ish, 241 on both sides. Chase Sherman, look how many fights this guy's had at the UFC level. It's incredible how he's been able to get the call back time and time again. And he has a glass chin. He has cardio issues. He does not move his head off the center line. But Carl Williams has shown against Bresky and others that he's going to try to use his grappling to implement his will, and he should try to do that here against Sherman. Sherman could potentially come out here and expose Williams for his cardio issues. Both of these fighters have many, many warts. So it surprised me to watch. I saw the fight doesn't go the distance prop here on heavyweight matchup at minus 116 or so. That is a little bit shocking to me. I do see, I know Sherman against Arlovsky and others has hung in fights, but I think this fight may end up finishing, and I don't hate on the fight doesn't go the distance prop. I will be picking Carl Williams. I think that the grappling heavy path to victory is a legitimate one here, and he's going to be the pick. I think he gets it done inside the distance, but you never know. With Chase Sherman, oh man, I feel like this might be the last time we see him inside the octagon. Next up, we've got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Joseph Pyfer. Remember what Dana White says, be like Joe Pyfer. Now, Joe Pyfer, I'll be honest, you watch him compete, I can't help but see a gigantic version of Kyle Nelson when I watch him fight. He moves the same. He overcommits to his strikes. Just the way his body structure, it's very similar to Kyle Nelson. It's so strange. I know they're in very different weight classes, but I see some of the same tendencies too in a negative way, which is concerning here. And Gerald Meerschaert is a veteran of the game. He's a person who has been able to pull some victories out of his hat throughout his career against Bruno Silva, Muradov, and there've been others. But he also can be one punch KO'd, and he's a guy who's submission or bust a lot of times. Joe Pyfer is extremely tough, and when he commits to his strikes, he pours everything into it. He's like hell on wheels, man. He will come at you, guns blazing, and I think Pyfer's going to get this done inside the distance. I also could see him making a bonehead mistake and getting caught in the submission here. Meerschaert, it's funny that I watch Meerschaert fight and I listen to his interviews. He sounds like a very cerebral individual. And then you go watch how he fights, and he's kill or be killed, many of his fights. But recently he's been putting together some great game plans. So the pick is going to be Pyfer inside the distance, but I'd rather, I did play fight doesn't go the distance in the low 300s. And I don't see this one hitting the scorecards. Pyfer is going to come at him, and he's going to always have that mentality of what Dana White put into his head. Be like Joe Pyfer. You know, you sign somebody to the contract, they're going to come in here and give it every single fiber of their being, and they're going to empty their tank every time out. And Joe Pyfer does that, and I think that he's going to do that here. And a finish will be forced out of someone. Now, we've got a number of comments here. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Morning, Johnny. Godinez decision. Interesting. Everyone and their mothers, Dana boy. Well, everybody is fighting for that love, and they want that paycheck, so they're going to go for it, right? And even we'll talk about Masvidal up later on the card. It's interesting watching that guy fight. Oh, I have a lot to say about that fight in a few minutes. Let's talk Michelle Waterson versus Luana Pinheiro. Pinheiro, by the way, you watched the up kick against Randa Marcos. She got caught by that up kick, was flailing all across the octagon, and she fights out of a great camp, Pinheiro. She's in her late 20s. But Michelle Waterson is a veteran of the game. She's somebody who 37 or so years of age. She's looking great, fights out of the same camp as Holly Holm and looks incredible. They both look marvelous for their age. And Waterson, the thing is, the level of competition here is massive. There's a discrepancy there. I'm leaning towards the underdog, Michelle Waterson, but this is another instance where low level. Well, actually, this is not low level. Michelle Waterson's proven that she's a capable karate fighter, but also has a ground game. And I wonder how much she's rehydrated since the weigh-in, because she has a lot of muscle on her frame right now. I'll be picking the underdog. I have no play on this fight, mainly because we're looking at women's mixed martial arts, and there's a massive change that can happen between camps. And I know Pinheiro's coming off of beating the one and only Sam Hughes. That doesn't say that much to me, my friends. I'll be picking Waterson. Next up, we've got Kelvin Gastelum taking on Chris Curtis. Now, I released a play a few weeks ago, Kelvin Gastelum plus 134, and now he's at minus 135, and he's taking on a Chris Curtis who has, I believe, almost 40 professional fights under his belt, and somebody who is tough as nails. Both of these fighters extremely durable. They're going to come at you. They're going to, Gastelum can change levels. We know that. He's got a great wrestling background, and although we'd prefer him at 170, both of these fighters have competed at welterweight before. And Chris Curtis is a fighter who will fight hard for your money. He's typically there at the end of the bell when the final horn sounds, but he doesn't have much versatility to his game. And you watch Jack Hermanson come out and frustrate him, and he's been frustrated in situations where he's not. He doesn't have somebody just standing right in front of him. And Gastelum, I trust in the folks at Fight Ready at Scottsdale, Arizona, who have trained this fighter. And I still believe Gastelum at 31 years of age has something left in the tank here. So we had one unit on Kelvin Gastelum plus 134. I'll be picking him to win. Chris Curtis, though, he was trying to get into Gastelum's head. Watch the interviews yesterday. He was talking about Gastelum being a burrito Gastelum. If burrito Gastelum shows up, then he has a shot at victory here. Also, the way they were looking at each other at weigh-ins, I noticed Gastelum left his shirt on, and there were a few things said between both of these men. And I wonder, Gastelum's got to get out of his own head. He has to fight this fight. Know that he has the folks at Fight Ready in his corner telling him what to do. He's got to believe in himself for 15 minutes and walk out with this victory. He's going to be the pick. Next up, we have another fighter Christian Rodriguez, who, man, I like the way this kid fights. He's Josh Weems. There have been others. The JSP fight went in there and showed us what he was made of. But to not make weight at this stage in the game, the biggest fight of your career, and you're coming up against a kid, Raul Rosas, 18 years of age, someone who, the kid's doing the championship belt, the strap. He's doing this at weigh-ins. The kid's has a victory over Jay Perrin, and he's doing that. Come on. Rodriguez, though, he should have made weight. This is mind-boggling to me. He even went a second attempt and failed the second time. So that's very concerning to me. Rosas, though, I will say this. I'm not a huge fan of his game. He will fight to his strengths. Grappling heavy, doesn't give up on himself, and he will grind. That's one thing he will do. And I worry about Christian Rodriguez here. If this fight ends up in the second or third round, how much gas does he have in the tank? Number one, he looked flabby for bantamweight, and he missed weight. At this level, it's concerning. But Rodriguez, clean striker, and he's got a great submission game, and he can grapple. I like the way Rodriguez fights. So initially, if Rodriguez would have made weight, and I would have seen more intensity at the weigh-ins and in the lead up to this, knowing that he had a great preparation, I would be picking Rodriguez here. He would have been the pick. But Rosas, there's a confidence level here, and the kid is it just seems like he's blinded by what's happening around him. Inarticulate, difficulty stringing sentences together, but he is talented, and sometimes that'll get you far. And it could potentially happen here. So I'll be picking Rosas. It pains me to say that because I wanted to roll with Rodriguez in this spot. And I hope I'll be pulling for Rodriguez. I hope he gets it done. Next up, Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio coming in at minus 240. And you've got Holland minus 240, Ponzinibbio plus 200. This fight, interesting. You have fighters who are headed in opposite directions, but one thing that needs to happen, Holland needs to get his ass in gear here. He's got to turn the tide, and he needs to get this done. He needs to stick to his strengths. We have a viewer here, one of my sons, joining us for the breakdown. You want to say hi?
Hi.
All right. Have a great day. So let's get cut to the chase. Kevin Holland, we got in at minus 200, and I also played him at plus 150 for to win inside the distance in this spot. Ponzinibbio is tough as nails. He is a fighter who is a dog, who will fight to his strengths. And he is a fighter who's run into some issues when he's been caught by punches. I'm concerned about that here. I'm concerned about his footing on the octagon floor. The canvas seems to be an issue. I'm not sure if it's just something as simple as wiping his feet off before he enters the octagon, but the last few fights, watch his feet slipping all over the octagon. And you know that this is a fighter who relies on footwork. So I think that Kevin Holland's going to come in here and catch Santiago Ponzinibbio at some point. And I know Santiago, he fights out of Florida, right? He's been at ATT for a while, and he's a guy who looks great at weigh-ins, and he always comes in phenomenal shape. Very talented fighter, has a lot of tools at his disposal. The Stephen Thompson fight is a concern of mine. The Hazmat fight, he got ran through there for Kevin Holland here. But Kevin Holland, he's talented. He can string grappling together if he needs to. He can string submissions. He can land straight punches. He has a massive reach advantage in this spot, and I'll be picking Kevin Holland to win. I do have concerns about the broken hand, but this is a spot where if you want to take the judges out of the equation, I think this is a spot where that may happen here. And I like the number at plus 150 inside the distance on Holland. So we pulled the trigger. Next up, we have a fighter who in Rob Font is getting up there in age, has shown some significant wear and tear on the body, especially up in the cranium. He's had a issue with getting hit early and often, and also late in fights. The way he takes damage does not look great. Is he the more talented fighter here? For sure. Adrian Yanez is a rudimentary fighter in some regards if this fight hits the mat. I don't trust Yanez's ground game. I don't trust Yanez's wrestling game. You saw watch the Costa fight, how Yanez was getting picked apart with a jab for a large portion of that first round. You want to talk about a fighter who has a jab? Look at Rob Font. Rob Font has a hell of a jab. He can string his jab together, but the problem is I'm worried about what's coming back at him. And Yanez, I don't think he's really been figured out yet at this level in the UFC. He has fought some lower level opponents. You're talking about Tony Kelly and others. This is his first real test here. So I'm leaning with, I think Yanez is going to catch Font. I think that's a real possibility that he's going to catch him in an exchange and get him on wobbly legs and not get him out of there. But as far as a pick goes, I'm going to go against myself here because I want to pick Yanez inside the distance, but I'm going to pick Rob Font because I think that his vet savviness and the crew at the cartel have him trained up for this one. So I'm gonna be picking Rob Font here. This little guy. What are you doing, brother? I apologize for the shadows in the background. My son is flashing up. I don't know what he's doing over there. What are you flashing gang signs? What are you doing, kid? Next up, we have a fascinating matchup between Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal coming in as the plus 350 underdog, taking on Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns minus 435 at the betting window. Do I think that this is an incredibly wide line? I don't know, man. I watched this. I watched the way Jorge Masvidal has been conducting himself recently. It's a little disturbing. The guy's been tangling with folks. I'm seeing stuff on like TMZ outside of the octagon after weigh-ins. Hasn't looked the same. Did not look good on the scales. He's going to be at a grappling disadvantage here. Gilbert Burns, though, is a bit chinny. And Burns is a very dangerous fighter. He has a ton of confidence. Both of these guys are repping South Florida here. And I got to roll with Gilbert Burns. I think he does get this done inside the distance. But the play here was fight. I play the under 2.5 at minus 120. I think that's a solid play. And I'll be picking Gilbert Burns inside the distance. I don't know, man. Masvidal, I don't know how he's going to handle this if he loses in front of his hometown crowd. He's going to have the crowd popping, though. I will say that. And he can crack. He can crack Jorge Masvidal. So I understand why folks are playing the plus 350 or so there on Masvidal. But I think Burns gets this done and gets it done inside the distance. Before we get to the main event, let's say hello to some folks here. Gambler Joe says big mouth should cruise. Yes, Masvidal appears to be a hot mess. He does appear to be in quasi-retirement mode. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's get to the main event of the evening. My goal is to have this breakdown done in under 30 minutes, and we are headed that way. We have a couple of minutes to get this done. So Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya, part 2 inside of the octagon. This is the 4th time these guys have locked horns. Dangerous fight for both fighters. Pereira, that left hook, it's not telegraphed. It's coming out of nowhere. He uncorks that thing. It's very dangerous. Grappling, Israel Adesanya has to find a way to get this fight to the mat. He also has to find a way to drain Pereira here, who has a massive weight cut. Adesanya looks like the natural fighter who competes at 185 pounds. Pereira is enormous. And I watched this fight back a few times. The first one, couldn't help but notice the fight IQ of Israel Adesanya is incredibly high. He got hurt leading up to that finish in the 5th round. He's got to avoid that left hand and stay at range. And if he commits to his strikes, he can wobble Pereira. We've seen that happen in the kickboxing bouts also. I know Adesanya was put out cold, but he's going to have to take some risks here, but he's going to have to fight to his strengths. And he saw just a few short months ago that Pereira was a fish out of water on the mat. And if it gets there, Adesanya has multiple paths to victory. Pereira, I know this fight means the world to him, but you look at Adesanya here and he is capable of fighting a masterful game plan. We know that. He's an extremely gifted fighter. This is a very closely lined fight for a reason. I played Adesanya at minus 135, been contemplating adding to it, but thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. This is a very dangerous fight for both fighters. And you talk about fighters' legacy too. This is everything for Adesanya here. And it's not like he's out of his prime. And the other thing I must mention, those last 2 or 3 strikes that Pereira missed, where the stoppage was made, I think Goddard was the referee. That was a life-changing beating that could have potentially been handed out. If Pereira landed those couple of strikes, this fight wouldn't be happening right now. So I think Pereira is going to have to land that left hand. He's going to have to land with power and do it early, because Adesanya, I think that Adesanya is going to come out here and fight a brilliant game plan. If he's not knocked out, he could get knocked out. So the pick is going to be Israel Adesanya here. Closely lined fight. Want to wish everybody a fantastic fight day. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to cut this before we hit the 31-minute mark. Third-party track for many years. We're up well over 100 units. Put all of the plays out for free this week. And the past couple of weeks, we've been putting out, actually this whole year, we've been putting out free plays on a regular basis. So just want to thank everybody for their support. Go get what's yours. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you on the flip side. Take care.